Hi, my name is Carolina Loaisiga, and I am the interviewer for today's interview. This is my interviewee. Can you please state your name, please?
My name is Ruby Avila.
And how old are you?
I'm 19 years old.
Where were you born?
I was born in Guatemala City, Guatemala.
Oh, okay. And can I ask you how you identify as?
Yeah, first of all, like a Latina. Second, I'm a Guatemaltecan, so that means like you're from Guatemala.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, when did you immigrate here to like the U.S.?
I was about 8 years old, so that was about, 11 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
So if I do the math, which I can't do the math right now, it was like 2006, 2007?
Yeah. What do you think was like the biggest change from like 8 years old in like Guatemala to like now as like a teenager?
I feel like, I don't know, like when I first came to this country, it was like the language and like back in Guatemala, we would learn English either way. Like it would be like a language you would learn in school, but it was just like coming here and just like English being the first language was very
Yeah.
like hard and difficult, especially when you like there was people who didn't know Spanish and like your first language
Yeah.
is Spanish.
Yeah.
And I just feel like also the culture is very different from here.
Yeah.
Like everything is more like family dynamics are different and just like people in general and people's beliefs are very varied. So
Yeah.
it was just a lot of culture change and a lot of just like language and everything.
Okay. Well, it's a very interesting response.
Thank you.
Can you like tell me a little bit about your childhood, and if you could describe your childhood in 3 words?
Okay. The 3 words I would probably use would be I don't know. I feel like it would be like interesting, it would be different, and I feel like it was, I don't know what the last word would be. It would be like maybe fun. Yeah, I would say that. At first, I would say interesting just because my mom lived here in the States while I was back in Guatemala because she wanted to come here first and like, settle, get a job before she brought me over. And I would say different because my family dynamic was different since my mom did live here and I only was like, it's only my mom in the picture.
Yeah.
I lived with my aunts and my uncles and my cousins. So it wasn't really like that normal family dynamic that people would usually have growing up. And the last one would be fun. It was just because, I don't know, like since I live with my aunts and my uncles and my cousins, it was like I had a lot more family other than just like my mom. It was just like I got to have a bigger family because of that situation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely very different from like the normative family types. Who motivates you like out of all your family, and like why so?
I would say my mom, just because, like I said earlier, she did immigrate here. First, like she had me at a very young age,
Yeah.
and she came here pretty young herself. And I don't know, just for her to come to a different country where she didn't know the language,
Yeah.
where she didn't know just how it was to be here in the States, and like she was able to find a job, like like get rent a home and like have everything settled before she even brought me here. And she did it because she wanted a better life for me, because she knew there would be more opportunities here for me and for herself. And I feel like she's my motivation, because if she can do that, like go to a whole different country and like make a whole new life for myself and for her, and like she's being very successful at it, I feel like I can do anything too.
Okay. So do you have any family back home in Guatemala?
I do. Like I said, it was my aunts and my cousins and my uncles, and I have about 4 aunts back at home, and like they have their kids and they have kids of their own, so it's a pretty big amount of family. I would say probably like 25 people who are back in Guatemala.
Okay. Just a quick question. So why did they decide to stay in Guatemala, and why did you and your mom decide to like migrate over here?
I feel like first of all, my mom decided to come here just because for her, she felt like she wanted something different and she wanted something new. So she thought coming to the States would be like that difference and that change in her life.
Yeah.
And I feel like my aunts stayed back there and are still there because they had a family already.
Yeah.
Like a lot of them are way older than my mom, so
Yeah.
they're like at the time when my mom had me, she was like 19 years old.
Yeah.
So and my aunts and uncles, they were already like in their 30s. So for my mom, like she was still very young, so she still had the ability to come to the States because she came here illegally. So it's
Yeah.
like it's harder to
Yeah.
like there's a lot of things that you need to go through and a lot of hardships before you can even come into the States.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's physically demanding and mentally demanding.
Mm-hmm.
And for my aunts and uncles, they already were much older.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was a much more difficult task for them. And also, like I said, they had their families already. They
Yeah.
had their kids. And I feel like to them, they were just like, they wanted something more stable for their family since their family was already growing and some of their kids had kids. And it was just a better option to stay in Guatemala.
Yeah, makes sense. If I could ask, can I ask about your legal status?
Yeah. I am a permanent resident as of now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. So, since you are a permanent resident, it does allow you to like fly out of the country for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Do you often go visit Guatemala, or you haven't gone to visit?
Last time I went to Guatemala was about 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I went to go visit like my grandma and my aunt and my uncles and stuff like that. I would like to go more, but it's kind of expensive. Like
Yeah.
the flights and everything
Yeah,
is pretty
definitely.
expensive. And yeah, so the last time I went was 5 years ago, but I had a lot of fun and it was very nice going back to where you came from and just seeing where you grew up.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. But now I want to like switch a little bit to the questions. Since now you've been like living in this country for quite a long time, and you were here when like Donald Trump got elected as like a president. How do you feel about that, and how do you feel as like all his like policies like as like a Latina woman?
Well, I wasn't very happy when I heard that Donald Trump was elected our president for many reasons. But I feel like one of the main reasons is because a lot of what he says and a lot of his policies affect me as a Latina. Just because a lot of the things he says is very racist towards people of color. It can be either black or Asian, but most of the time it's about Latins and people from Latin America. And I don't know, for me personally, I feel like having him as a president makes it very hard to live here because I feel like most people of my color and just people of color in general, they feel like they're not welcomed here because he's supposed to be the face of the country and he's out here telling his citizens that that we're bad people, that we're criminals, that we're rapists, and you don't want to walk around in the streets like just trying to have a great time and you see people looking at you because of the color of your skin. And it's just something that like impacts me in my everyday life because sometimes I can be in a public place and I feel like people are looking at me because they're like racially profiling me because of something that he said earlier. With that also, I feel like I am not a DACA student, but I could have been. Like, if I didn't get this permanent residency, I could have been in that situation. And he's trying to take it away. And I feel like it's kind of unfair for the fact that many DACA students, they're not what he says they are. They're not criminals. They're very good people who have very strict rules that they need to follow to be able to be a DACA student. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand that. And it's just like very insulting to me and to people like me because it's just we're here, we're trying to have a better life for ourselves, for our families, and they're trying to build obstacles for that, and like they're making it harder on ourselves. Like it's unfair that we can't have the same opportunities as other people here. We're not trying to do something bad, we're just trying to live our better life and become educated, go to school, like get a career, and they're making it very hard. He's making it very hard for us.
Okay, so if you don't mind asking, can I ask about how do you think your life is different in like Guatemala, your home country, to here in America, like US?
I feel like there are many differences. To begin, like I feel like the first difference was how I said earlier that there was a culture shock, and I feel like a big reason there was a culture shock was like here in the States, it's like there's a lot of people who are very like liberal, and they're just like able to express themselves like just like about their body, about their beliefs, about their religion. And I feel like in Guatemala, it was all very conservative. Like you needed to dress a certain way, because if you went out somewhere and you were like dressed in a certain way, they'd be like, oh, you're like, that's not how a woman should be dressed, or that's not how a woman should act. Also, with that, they were more conservative. Like you had to go to church. Like you had to have only this one certain belief, because that's what the majority of the population believed. Another thing would be that I feel like here in the States, there's a lot of more opportunity to grow and to just like move up in like social class. Because in Guatemala, it's kind of like if you're like in the lower class or the middle class, it's kind of like where you stay, because you go to school and you can go to la universidad and everything, but like most of my aunts and uncles, they went to school and they went to college, but they're like bank tellers, and that's like the best job that they can get. Because like other jobs require you to have more money or more experience in a certain thing, and you can't get that experience because you need to work to be able to afford things over there. So I feel like here it's like a free-for-all, basically. Like I can, like if I want to be like a lawyer, I can be a lawyer. Like I have that opportunity here because it's given to me.
Okay. Not talking about all these like new experiences and these like new ideas that you introduced in the US. Now that you know, like, oh, okay, if I set my mind to it, I can do it. What are your like goals and aspirations like now here in like the US?
Some of my goals and aspirations would be obviously to finish getting an education, like getting my degree. I am a bio major, so with that, I want to become a doctor, and hopefully that will be something that's in my future, to become a doctor and to be able to help other people, and also like the money's nice, so there's that too. But yeah, there's that, and I also like some other goals would just be like to be able to give back to people like me, like immigrants, and be able to help other immigrants and other people who are just like Latins and everything, to be able to like prosper here in this new like country that they don't really know. So I would like to do that too in the future.
Okay, so it kind of seems like you do want to give back to the Latino community. What's like one tip of advice or something that you would tell to like these immigrant children coming here? Because I mean, you did immigrate here when you were 8, and your mom was already here. So how would you give like support or like advice to like an immigrant child like coming to like the U.S.?
I feel like it's gonna be hard because it's gonna be very different, but definitely come here with an open mind. But also just like find people who are like you. Like being able to have people who are also like immigrants like yourself will help you, because you guys can relate and you won't feel as alone here in this place where there might not be as many people like you.
And just to wrap up the interview, I want to ask you like some 5 questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
So my first question is, what do you think your philosophy in life is?
I think my philosophy in life would just be let's see, what is it? Just try your best at anything you do. Just because some things are gonna be hard in life, but it doesn't mean they're impossible. You just gotta really work hard for them. And I feel like as long as you try and you give that effort, like you'll get something in return.
And do you think like your whole like background, like as like a migrant here in like the U.S. and like just like knowing like that you're like going to college now and you want to become like this like great doctor, do you think that's what like affects your philosophy? Is that why you think the way you think, or that's just like how you've always thought like since like childhood?
I feel like it's a little bit of both. I feel like some of it is just like it's like within me, like that's just who I am, but also I feel like my situation, like being an immigrant coming here and like learning how to like go through these hardships and learning how to like live in a different country has really taught me that like life is, it's gonna get hard. Like there's gonna be things that you're not always gonna get like right away, things that are gonna make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but you gotta try your best to like assimilate or to like just just try your best. And I feel like coming to this country was like one of the big reasons that why my philosophy is that.
Yeah. So what are your goals, or what is something that you want to do this year?
A few of my goals, one of them is to travel more. So I'm planning to go to Seattle over the summer to get to just see somewhere I've never been. Another one of my goals is to get an internship, whether it be at a hospital or at a lab because of my major, so like a bio major. And if I don't get that internship, it would just also be like volunteering at a hospital or anything or something similar to that, just because I want to get more hands-on into what like I might be doing in the future and start like learning how to do those things.
Yeah, those are really good plans. I know like why all your plans and all your motivation, like maybe you might not have something to regret, but if there is, like, what is it? And yeah, what do you regret, like, not doing or doing?
Let me see. I think that's a good question. Let's see. Okay. I feel like one of the regrets of mine would just be, I don't know, being more involved with my own community. I feel like sometimes I get involved in other people's community or do like community service somewhere else, but I don't really focus it around my community. And I feel like it's really important because that's where I live. The people around me are my neighbors. They're people who I see on the daily, and I feel like I should probably like get to know people around me more and just like be able to help my own community, because at the end of the day, this is where I live and this is where I spend most of my time.
Yeah. And then another thing, like one of my other questions would be, sorry, I'm like blinking out right now.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry. It would be, oh, how different was your life, like, let's say, like, from Guatemala to here? Or maybe you could just talk about, like, these, like, past few years now that you're, like, growing as a young adult. Because, I mean, like, if you do think about it, then maybe, like, you did spend all your, like, childhood here because you did grow up from, like a 8-year-old to, like, a teenager now. So how do you think, like, your life is different now from, like, a year ago, or, like, just whatever you want to talk about?
I can hit like both points. I feel like because I came here kind of young, like I still had somewhat of a childhood in Guatemala. So like obviously the changes from there to here were different, and that was like a difference. But I feel like from 8 to now, I just feel like I've become more of a, I don't know, more responsible person, more aware of my surroundings and just aware of what happens in my, like, just like politically wise or just like within my own race, like stuff like that. I've become more aware of it. I've matured a lot more. I've learned to care about things that are bigger than myself, because at the end of the day it will impact myself. Yeah, I feel like also since I've already been here for about 11 years, I feel like I've become accustomed to like the Americanized way, like living in the States and everything. So I've definitely changed from when I was like 8 and having that hard transition. Like it took me a few years for me to be able to feel comfortable here in the States, just because it was just a lot for me. And so now I just feel more comfortable with like the language, with the culture, and just everything in general.
Okay, and I just have 2 more questions. So my like almost to last question would be, how would you describe like your family dynamic now, since now like you still have family in Guatemala and now you have family here in like like the U.S. How would you describe your family dynamic now?
Well, I feel like it's both the same but also changed at the same time, just because now I live with my mom. So not I live with my mom, I'm here at college, but I lived with my mom when I was like from 8 to like 18. But so that was like different. It was nice having my mom around and just having, be able to like have that like dynamic of like a mom and a daughter like living together, like how it usually is. But also I have aunts and uncles that are here too, and like I feel like that is kind of the same too, because I'm as close to them as I was to like the aunts and uncles in Guatemala too. So I feel like that's what's similar there. But yeah, I feel like those are like the main. Also, like I feel like because it's just me and my mom like living with one another, like it changed a little bit because we would rely heavily on one another since it was just us two. But but in Guatemala, when I was with my aunts and uncles, like it would be like there was a lot of people I could turn to because there was just so many more of them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for the thoughtful answer. And just like one more question. My last question would be, what do you hope people take from like your story, or like what do you hope to like leave like as your legacy, sort of like quote unquote?
I just want to like I feel like people who don't know, like, just immigrants in general, they're just very quick to assume or to stereotype. And I just hope, like, what I'm doing here and, like, hopefully when I get my career, like, I change those stereotypes. And people don't see people like us, like I said earlier, like rapists or, like, criminals or anything. They see us just as normal, regular people who are out here trying to better the world, who are capable of getting a career, becoming doctors, becoming lawyers, becoming presidents. Like, I hope that, like, I'm part of that change, like, and I hope that other immigrants see me and other immigrants like me, and, like, that encourages them to get out there and, like, pursue something bigger.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for this interview. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.